All right, so I'm gonna do this video real quick. I think me and Quincy, we're gonna do this video, right, buddy? Huh? Wrong? Yeah, we're gonna do this video. What do you think? Yeah. Anyway, so someone sent me a question. Or actually, it's not that long ago, actually. And because it's the last one that I received, I may have received others, but sometimes they get caught up in the filter thing. So sometimes may not get to them, but they left a comment on a video where I think it was the video where a woman appreciates her husband or her boyfriend who plays video games, and how she was pretty much saying that she knows exactly where he is, and that she doesn't understand why some women are upset when their men play video games. She feels like he's getting his peace, and after a stressful day, she knows he has a hard life out there, and that type of thing. So she's the lady was amazing, right? I remember that article, and he's playing his games. He's right there in front of the screen like I do, and she's got her feet propped up, and she just took a picture of it because she said, he works hard. Well, someone sent me a question on that video. They said, "Hey, yo, man, what do you think of the growing MGTOW? Any regrets about settling down and having a family? Any insights that you wish you knew when you were younger? Regrets about not completing any of your dreams when you were younger? Questions from a 22-year-old fella. Peace and love, brother." Well, let me first talk about MGTOW, right? To me, anytime that there is a group that has formed, I sit back and wait. There's a lot of different groups that are online that really talk about improvement in terms of whatever group, right? Supposedly improvement. And so I don't interact with them directly. I sit back and kind of watch, because sometimes you end up with a group that starts off one way and then it ends up changing to something else. Or it started with maybe the best intentions, but you get the wrong individuals involved, and then it becomes something completely different than what it was. And so for me, MGTOW, which is men going their own way, for those that don't understand, and basically they were talking about originally how men should focus on improving themselves, and focusing on big picture type things, and they felt like a lot of things were set up against them in terms of society, right, that had a high feminine tint to it, and so it was just difficult for men to pretty much make it. Now, there were different groups of individuals that got involved in MGTOW, you know and you had some that got involved because of things like child support. They felt like child support situations were skewed heavily against some of the men. Some of them got involved. A lot of this had to do with relationships, right? They may have gotten divorced, and it is custody type stuff that didn't really go equally. So, and then there's others, but recently that group also is known to be a spinoff or a part of, or more involved with the alt-right and white supremacy, right? So that is one of the reasons why I never really back any sort of particular group, right? There are some I definitely agree with. There's certain things that folks will say, and I'm like, okay, I get that. I understand it. I may not agree with everything 100%. There are certain things I definitely do. I can see that. I kind of agree with. And it makes sense, right? It makes sense. But typically, I won't sit there and throw my weight behind it. Now, what I do throw my weight behind when it comes to young men, and I'll get to the other questions that you have, is that I think that you should definitely always focus on yourself. When you're getting out of school, high school, you should definitely focus on you, not anybody else. Be selfish. And I think that sometimes you have guys in different situations where maybe their mom or dad or both are, need their help, or maybe sick, or they may have other family members that they feel obligated to try to help. And my thing is that be very careful with that. Be very careful. I just saw this video last night about this lady that's almost 600 pounds. And I think it's my 600-pound life. And her son was 21. And she basically uh, kind of is keeping him hostage because, I mean, yeah, he has the ability to just leave, but his mom is pretty much disabled because of her weight, and she's not doing anything really to fix it. She went and got the surgery. She made every excuse under the sun to the doctor as to why she shouldn't be able to walk or why she doesn't want to walk. She makes her son go to the grocery store and get a whole list of things that she wants, even though they're things that are not helpful. So she's not exercising, she's not doing anything. And she's got a slow death, and she keeps him there because he's the only one that can bathe her, that can help her go to the bathroom, help go get her groceries, help. Basically, he's an in-house slave in a way, right? He doesn't get to live his life and see what that's like, right? He's not even able to really go to college because she needs him pretty much 24/7. And even though all that money was spent for her to go to a doctor to get the surgery done for her to eat less, they even moved from their hometown all the way to Houston to get the surgery done. She still hadn't improved anything, and he kind of wasted his life. In that situation, I would tell that young man to go your own way. Now, not necessarily MGTOW, but it's kind of like, you know what, do your own thing, because you cannot sit and waste your life. I understand it's your mother, and I get that. My mother is no longer here, and I would do anything in the world. But my mom also would not want to paralyze my life for her own. You see what I'm saying? Even when my mom was sick and dying, she didn't really feel comfortable with me having to leave here and go there and, be there with her. She wanted me there, obviously. And of course, I would definitely be there, and I was. But she didn't want me to just put everything on hold like that. And that goes for any of her kids. She just, to me, and I wouldn't want that for my kids either. I think that there's a difference between helping your parents and basically just losing your entire life just to take care of them, right? They've lived their life. They should give you that opportunity to do the same thing. So I would tell him that he would need to get his own apartment. He would need to go out there, find him a good job. If he wants to go to school or trade school, that should be a good thing to do. I always tell dudes, and especially men of color, black men especially, one of the biggest things that you should do, and these are things I've already done, one of the biggest things that you should do is when you're 18, decide whether or not you want to go to college, right? There's several different things here. If you want to go to a 2-year college, so we're talking community, excuse me, a community college, that's cool. Get your associate's degree in anything. It could just be general studies. Get your associate's degree. Then, if you want to go on and continue to get a 4-year degree, cool. You only got 2 more years to go, right? And then you have your bachelor's. If you don't want to be in that type of lifestyle and you want to focus on just a trade, then definitely go to a trade school. I cannot stress how important that is, period. Period. The second thing that you should do is while you're going through school is to get a passport. That's extremely important. I would say even before you go to college, just to make sure you have the money, work long enough to get yourself $100 and something and get a passport. I mean, it should be almost instant. If you don't have one, if your parents aren't able to afford to get you one, you definitely want to get a passport immediately. That goes for any guy, but if you're a black man, I say definitely do that. And why do I sit there and splice it between black and everybody else? It's because of the simple fact that a lot of times in our community, whether you're rural or in the urban community or in between, we typically just stay landlocked here in the lower 48. I mean, that's typically kind of it. That's it. So you don't get the opportunity to go to different countries to see how people live. And I think one of the biggest things that you can learn in life is how other people live. You're not going to learn that in any sort of college, any sort of university, nothing that in your existing life. The only way you're going to learn about yourself and how the world is and how to be more thankful for what you do have and what you can achieve is by going to other places and seeing how life is there. You may even be envious of how life is in other places. So I think that is critically important, is to at least have that passport. When it expires, get another one. You may never take a trip outside of this country, but at least have that option so that if you wanted to, at any point in time, you could definitely go someplace anywhere in the world. The other thing I always stress is to make sure that you have some sort of an investment. Typically things that don't depreciate, right? Because otherwise it's not really an investment. But I would say something like land. It's 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 so important to do that. You may not want to go full in and buy a house, but definitely own some land, and it doesn't matter really where it is. Own land. Have something that says this is yours. No one can take that from you. Yeah, you may have to pay property tax, but that's a small price to pay for something that builds your legacy. You see what I'm saying? There's contingency plans that you can put in place. Have a will set up. I know that sounds a little strange, but have a will set up so that if something were to happen to you, all of the things that you have are going to go the way that they should go. A lot of times people when they're young don't think about that. But, death doesn't know an age. And so to me, you need to focus on getting those things done. Now, and there's others, but any regrets about settling down and having a family? No. Because what happened was for me, I got married too early. I've been married twice. First marriage ended in divorce. Second marriage has been with Noel. With the first marriage, which was about 4.5 years, I got married way too early, in my opinion. Early 20s is not, for at least for me, was not a good idea to get married. Because you're still growing in so many different ways. There's so many different things happening. Trying to finish college. That person was trying to finish college. It's just not a good mix. So at that point, once I divorced, I basically spent a block of time in there between that divorce and knowing Noel to just kind of just sow my wild oats. You know what I mean? I just went around and did everything I could with the exception of going out of the country. So if I had any sort of regret, it was I should have taken trips outside of the country. I had opportunity. In Puerto Rico, you can't really necessarily, some people consider it out of the country, some people don't. It's basically a U.S. territory. But one of my friends offered to go to Puerto Rico, and I told him no, and I should have. I had nothing holding me back. I should have did that. And I always kick myself about that. I should have went to Japan. I almost did. I was so close to booking a trip to Japan, and I never did do it at that time. But should I have done those things? Yeah, absolutely. As far as settling down and having a family, absolutely not. It's one of the best decisions I made. In fact, going back kind of to the first part that I was saying, for younger men, your focus shouldn't be, I don't think, on a woman at all. Right? I think a lot of times in this country, that's one of the things. It's like, well, you need to find you a woman and you need to settle down. You need to do this. And I don't think that that's a smart decision. I think your first thing should be grow and be selfish. Being selfish means, to me, focusing on improving everything about your life. Some dudes really need to go and get counseling. They may have had a difficult situation. Go get counseling. Don't look at that as a weakness. Look at that as I need to make myself the best possible. Because if you have issues, let's say you have some sort of mental issue, and not necessarily that you have you're mentally handicapped or anything, but let's say that you've been through a lot of stuff and that's weighing you back, then when you do try to achieve something, or if you did go overseas, or if you did go and try to open up your own business, you're carrying a bunch of baggage. And somewhere along the line, that's going to impact you greatly. It's going to slow you down. It may not stop you, but it's going to really slow you down. It's going to create a lot of different things that are hurdles that probably wouldn't have been hurdles had you addressed that to begin with. So attend to your mental health, physical health. A lot of dudes don't go and get, physicals every year. Attend to that type of thing. That's something I always did when I was younger, is go to the doctor, always, because I was very aware of what could happen if you don't. I had a lot of people, since I was the youngest, I had a lot of people much older than me, and the different health conditions that they had. Now granted, they were like 40, 50 years older than me, but I still wanted to make sure that I was on the right track. I saw all the different health issues my mom had early on, and I didn't want to go down that line, right? So I think that your mental and your physical health is something you should definitely focus on, right? That's your responsibility. That includes your dental health, your body health, everything, right? Go to the dentist, go to the eye doctor, things I always did because no one else can do that for you. So when I say be selfish, I'm talking about truly be focus on you. Focus on getting a job that's going to help you. Don't settle for just any old job. Try to get the best job you can. Try to build up your wealth. Try to save your money. Don't spend it on stupid stuff. You have all these people who, and I kind of did that too, where you spend money on clothes and shoes and everything else, and it doesn't last. Basic clothes are totally fine. And nowadays people are doing that, but back when I was coming up, it was brands. Now, not so much, but don't focus on all that crap that has no value, right? I mean, I'm not saying dress like a bum, but you don't have to dump all your money on stuff like that. But when it comes to having a family, absolutely one of the best things I've ever did, because at this point in life, this makes sense. I wanted to have kids by the time I was 33. I felt like if I didn't start that at that point, that I would adopt. That's how serious I was, because I wanted to have kids, but I didn't want to end up being, my age now and starting. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I wanted to start having kids at a decent age. I didn't want to do it in my early 20s. I think not for everyone, but for me, it would have been a bad situation as well. I wouldn't have the life I have now if I had started kids any earlier. No one is fully mentally prepared, I think, for kids. But when you're younger like that, when you're in your 20s, it can be a lot of hurdles that you have to, because you're still trying to know who you are. And then you're trying to raise a kid. It makes life much more complicated than if you were to wait a little bit. I think when people wait till they're in their mid 20s or later 20s to have kids and start a family and that type of thing, things sometimes go a lot better. Had I did that and got married in my later 20s versus early 20s, I think things would be a lot different. So any insight that you wish you knew when you were younger? Not really, other than, like I said, getting your passport early and owning land. I think that is going to be probably the best thing to do. I should have traveled internationally more. So that's something that I probably didn't really focus much on. I wanted to do, but I should have done. Regrets about not completing any of your dreams when you were younger. Yeah, I mentioned that. I think for me, it is the fact that I could have traveled internationally and didn't do that. Now I can do that now, right? So all is not lost. But I think that if I was younger and I did that, things would be different. Possibly could have lived in another country. That would be, if I could live in Japan, I mean, I wouldn't know what to do. When I do visit Japan, I'm just going to fall out. Two places in the world where I'm just going to probably kiss the ground is Hawaii, which I'm going to go to, and Japan. Those are two places I'm going to definitely, and Ghana, Africa. Those are the three, I would say, three places I would kiss the ground, and for different reasons, right? Hawaii, because it's just freaking beautiful. We were watching videos about it last night. Ghana, Africa, because technically that is where my people originated from. Sorry, I'm getting nasally. So I would kiss the ground of, Mother Africa. But when it comes to Japan, it's been a long journey for me. It's a country that I've always just loved. Always. Questions from a 22-year-old fellow. I would say, good luck, man. Good luck. There's not, in terms of life, there's so many different directions that you can go. There's not one certain way to go. But I would say focus directly on yourself. Don't worry about labels. Don't worry about these different groups. Don't worry about trying to associate with any of that. Be a gang of one and focus on what is important to you. Write out a whole plan as to what you want in your life. Write out a life journal, if you will. Just kind of like a blueprint as to what you want to do by this particular age and work towards that. Some of the easiest things, like I said, is a passport. If you don't have a passport at 22, you probably want to look into that. I'm just saying. And that's something that you can do. No one is in control of. You can do that right now. I would do that before I would do anything else, right? That's simple. And before, because you have people that buy all these expensive shoes and clothes and everything, when you can buy a passport, save up some money, and take a trip internationally, right? Doesn't cost that much. If you're just one single person, take a trip right now. You know what I mean? Look up flights. It's not that bad, depending upon where you are in the country. It's not that bad. Like if I lived here in Washington growing up, yeah, I would have easily been to Asian countries all day long. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, and for you, it may be South America, maybe the Caribbean, maybe Africa, maybe Europe. But focus on going to those places at this stage in life, because as you get older, it gets a little bit more complicated. Doesn't mean you can't. It just gets a lot more complicated than if you were to do it now, when you don't have a whole lot that's kind of there that you have to address. But anyhow, hope that I actually answered all your questions here. Hope that you are having a great day. It's raining here, of course, this time of year. That's what it does. It just rains all the time. But anyhow, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.